Do you believe in heaven? What happens after we die? Is there truly a place where the soul continues to exist? A place of eternal peace, light, and divine presence? These are questions that have plagued humanity for centuries, with many searching for answers that lie beyond the reach of science. While modern science continues to explore and analyze the physical world, it struggles to answer the more profound, spiritual questions that transcend the boundaries of the known universe. For centuries, people have turned to faith and personal experience to find answers to what lies beyond death. One such account, shared by Dr. Mary Neal, a highly respected orthopedic surgeon, offers a compelling and deeply transformative glimpse into what might lie beyond this life. Dr. Neal's story of her near-death experience provides not only a glimpse into the possibility of heaven, but also challenges our conventional understanding of life, death, and the eternal realm. Before her near-death experience, Dr. Neal's life was marked by success and accomplishment. As an orthopedic surgeon, she had a brilliant career, renowned for her skill in treating complex spinal injuries. She was an accomplished medical professional, highly respected in her field, and lived a life full of purpose and dedication. Her life, grounded in the scientific and medical world, left little room for discussions of the supernatural or the afterlife. However, in the late 1990s, during a kayaking trip in the remote rivers of Chile, Dr. Neal experienced something that would defy all logical explanation and challenge the boundaries of medical science. At the time, she was an experienced kayaker, skilled in navigating the powerful and turbulent rivers of South America. She was no stranger to the hazards of whitewater kayaking, and the adrenaline rush of navigating such rivers was something she thrived on. But one fateful day, during a routine trip, disaster struck. As Dr. Neal attempted to navigate a particularly treacherous stretch of the river, her kayak became trapped underwater, pinning her beneath the surface against submerged rocks. For over 15 minutes, she was unable to move or breathe, trapped in a violent, turbulent current. Her friends and fellow kayakers fought desperately to free her. But despite their efforts, Dr. Neal was pulled from the water with no signs of life. According to medical standards, she was clinically dead. The physical realm disappeared for Dr. Neal as her body remained lifeless on the riverbank. But for her, the experience was far from the nothingness that many associate with death. Instead of fading into darkness, she found herself enveloped in a realm of pure, brilliant light. It was unlike any light she had ever seen before. This light was not simply an illumination, but a tangible presence. The light was alive, radiant, and warm, exuding peace and love beyond any human understanding. There was no pain, no fear, and no suffering. In fact, Dr. Neal experienced an overwhelming sense of comfort, peace, and safety, as if she had returned to a place where she truly belonged. There were no spoken words, but in the presence of this light, she felt an instantaneous, all-encompassing knowing. She understood everything without the need for language. It was as if the very essence of the universe, the mysteries of existence, and the meaning of life itself were revealed to her in a way that transcended human comprehension. In that moment, she felt a profound sense of unity and oneness with everything around her, a peace that no earthly experience could compare to. As she began to adjust to the overwhelming presence of this light, Dr. Neal became aware of other beings surrounding her. These beings, whom she later interpreted as angels, radiated light and love. They communicated with her not through words, but through a deep spiritual connection. She was not alone in this realm. She was surrounded by beings who exuded kindness, compassion, and an unconditional love that seemed to embrace her from every direction. Their presence was calming, reassuring, and filled her with a sense of purpose. Dr. Neal felt no fear, as her experience was filled with an overwhelming sense of safety. These beings seemed to be guiding her, preparing her for an encounter with something even more profound. It was a preparation for a divine presence, the presence of God. While she could not see God with her physical eyes, she could feel God's love in every part of her being. It was an intense experience, one that transcended any concept of earthly love and understanding. Dr. Neal describes the next part of her experience as one of the most powerful moments of her life. While surrounded by the light and the angels, she had a sense that she was being led toward an even greater, more glorious presence. She was aware that she was in the presence of God, a being so magnificent that mere words could not capture its essence. In this moment, she experienced what she can only describe as a divine embrace, a deep and profound connection with the Creator. As Dr. Neal stood in the presence of this divine being, she felt an overwhelming love that was so vast, so pure, that it brought tears to her eyes. There was no judgment, no condemnation, only love and acceptance. In this realm, Dr. Neal understood that her earthly life had been a part of a greater divine plan. Everything, every experience, every joy and hardship had meaning in the context of eternity. This understanding transcended the human limitations of time, space, and reason. In the presence of God, Dr. Neal also understood the importance of love, both the love she had experienced on earth and the love that permeated the divine realm. She was shown that love, compassion, and service to others were the essence of the divine will. There was no greater purpose than to love, and it was through love that one could truly connect with God and the eternal realm. Despite the profound beauty and peace of the afterlife, Dr. Neal was not allowed to remain. Her time in this divine presence came to an end, and she was told that it was not yet her time. Reluctantly, she was drawn back to her earthly body. The angels who had been guiding her gently released her, and she found herself pulled back through the tunnel of light that led her back to the physical realm. But what would make someone return from such an indescribable peace? How could she leave such a divine presence and come back to a world filled with struggle? Dr. Neal's revival was nothing short of miraculous. When she was pulled from the water, her body was lifeless, and the medical team had no hope for her survival. Yet somehow, she returned to life. How could a woman who had been clinically dead for so long suddenly regain consciousness without any neurological damage or complications? The doctors were astounded by her recovery. Unable to explain it, Dr. Mary Neal's near-death experience not only reshaped her understanding of life and death, but also gave her a profound message to share with others. She returned from the afterlife with a renewed sense of purpose and a deep conviction about the reality of heaven. But what exactly had she experienced in that otherworldly realm? Was it just a dream? Or was it something far more real? In the years following her miraculous recovery, Dr. Neal became a vocal advocate for the reality of the afterlife. Her testimony offers a powerful message of hope and reassurance for those who question what happens after death. Heaven, she believes, is not just a theoretical concept or religious tradition. It is a real place, filled with light, love, and divine presence. But if heaven is so real, what does it mean for us here on earth? What does it tell us about the greater purpose of our lives? Through her story, Dr. Neal invites others to contemplate the reality of heaven, the importance of love, and the eternal purpose that awaits us all. She challenges us to reconsider our understanding of life, death, and what lies beyond, encouraging us to embrace the idea that our souls are part of a greater, divine plan, one that is filled with hope, peace, and eternal love. Could it be possible that each of us is connected to this divine plan in ways we cannot even begin to understand? During her near-death experience, Dr. Mary Neal found herself in a sacred and timeless space. As she became fully immersed in the divine light, she no longer felt tethered to her earthly body. The usual constraints of time and space seemed to dissolve, and she entered a heightened spiritual realm where the physical world was no longer her primary reality. How does one even begin to comprehend a reality where time no longer exists? From this elevated state, Dr. Neal was able to observe the frantic efforts of her friends and paramedics, desperately trying to resuscitate her. But despite witnessing their struggle to save her, she felt no connection to her physical body, no fear or urgency. Instead, she experienced an overwhelming sense of being part of something far greater, a vast spiritual tapestry far beyond the confines of her human existence. In this place of profound peace and love, Dr. Neal encountered beings of light, luminous figures who surrounded her with warmth and serenity. These beings communicated to her, not through words, but through a deep and immediate knowing. Could they have known something she didn't? They conveyed to her that it was not yet her time to leave the earth. There was more work for her to do in the physical realm, more lessons to learn, and more lives to touch. They gently encouraged her to return. The love and peace she experienced in this divine space were so overwhelming that the very thought of returning to her earthly body felt unbearable. The contrast between the boundless joy and serenity of the afterlife and the challenges of life on earth seemed incomprehensible. Yet, despite her longing to remain in the divine presence, Dr. Neal was told she must return. And with that message, her journey back to the physical world began. What made her return? Was it a message for all of us to hear? Dr. Neal's revival was nothing short of miraculous. After being submerged for over 15 minutes in icy river water and declared clinically dead, her survival baffled medical professionals. When her body was pulled from the water, there were no signs of life. Yet, against all odds, she was revived. Could there be something beyond our understanding of life and death that defies medical science? The doctors and paramedics were astonished by her recovery, particularly given the extended period of time she had been without a pulse and the lack of brain activity. There was no medical explanation for her sudden return to life, nor for the fact that she suffered no brain damage despite the prolonged lack of oxygen. This miraculous recovery left Dr. Neal with an overwhelming sense of awe and gratitude for the life she had returned to. Yet, it was clear to her that her brush with death had revealed something far beyond the physical realm. She had witnessed an otherworldly experience, an encounter with the divine that had shown her a glimpse of what awaited beyond this life. What does this mean for the rest of us? In the years that followed, Dr. Neal shared her extraordinary experience only with a small circle of family and close friends. Her encounter with the divine had been so deeply personal and profound that she struggled with how to share it with the wider world. But eventually, she felt compelled to tell her story. And in 2012, she published the best-selling memoir, To Heaven and Back, detailing her near-death experience. The book resonated with many readers, offering comfort to those grappling with questions about life after death and providing a glimpse into the profound reality of the spiritual world. What would you do if you were in her shoes? However, there was one aspect of her experience that Dr. Neal kept hidden for a long time. During her time in the afterlife, she had received a prophetic vision, one that she only felt ready to share years later. The vision was of a turbulent future for the United States, one marked by division, political upheaval, and the rise of an unexpected leader. At the time of her NDE, she had no context for the vision, and it seemed to be a vague and distant message. But as the years passed, and especially following the unexpected election of Donald Trump as president in 2016, Dr. Neal began to feel a deep sense of urgency to share this part of her experience. What did this vision mean? Was it a glimpse into a larger, divine plan? Could it be that everything we're experiencing right now is part of something far greater? In her vision, Dr. Neal saw a time of great discord in the United States, where the country would face profound division and unrest. A leader would rise who would disrupt the established political order and bring to light hidden truths that had been long buried. Though she did not see a specific name, the characteristics of the leader she described closely aligned with Donald Trump's political rise. What could such a leader mean for the country's future? Dr. Neal was hesitant to share this aspect of her experience, knowing that it could be met with skepticism and controversy. The political climate in the United States was increasingly polarized, and the figure she described could easily be misinterpreted or misused by those with different political agendas. Nevertheless, she felt strongly that the vision had been given to her for a reason that transcended political ideologies. In Dr. Neal's view, the leader she had seen in her vision was not a political figure to be praised or vilified. Rather, this person was part of a larger, divine plan. The rise of this leader, though disruptive, was a necessary phase in the spiritual and societal evolution of the country. Dr. Neal believed that this leader would expose the hidden corruption within the political system and bring long overdue truths to the surface. While many would be unsettled by the upheaval caused, Dr. Neal saw it as a spiritual test for the American people, a moment in history when they would be forced to confront deep-rooted issues of truth, justice, and unity. What if this moment is the key to our collective awakening? For Dr. Neal, the turmoil described in her vision was not simply a political event, but a spiritual one. She saw the upheaval as a moment for the people of the United States to reflect on their values and make a choice about the direction they would take. The division and chaos of the political landscape were viewed as part of a divine process, one that would challenge people to face their own prejudices, biases, and misconceptions, and ultimately choose a path of healing, reconciliation, and unity. Dr. Neal acknowledged that the message she had received could be seen as controversial. The vision was not meant to endorse or condemn any specific individual, but to point to the larger spiritual narrative that was unfolding. She believed that God's ways are often beyond human comprehension, and that the tumultuous events of this time were part of a grander divine purpose. The disruption caused by this leader, though painful, was a necessary catalyst for spiritual awakening and societal transformation. In Dr. Neal's eyes, the political upheaval was a moment in time when people would be forced to confront the truth, heal old wounds, and move toward a more just and unified future. It was a spiritual purification, a test of faith, and a call for individuals and communities to choose love, truth, and reconciliation over division, hatred, and fear. Ultimately, Dr. Neal's vision reinforced her belief that all things, even the most difficult and disruptive, are part of a higher divine plan. The challenges faced during times of upheaval are opportunities for growth and renewal. For those willing to open their hearts and minds, there is the potential for a transformation that leads to greater unity, understanding, and spiritual growth. Though her message may not be easily understood by all, Dr. Neal remains steadfast in her conviction that the unfolding events of the world, whether political, social, or spiritual, are part of a divine intervention meant to guide humanity toward a better future. Dr. Mary Neal's story is both unsettling and enlightening, blending profound spiritual insights with a controversial political interpretation. Her near-death experience, which revealed both profound peace and unsettling visions of the future, forces us to ask whether there is a higher purpose behind even the most unexpected and chaotic events in our world. Dr. Neal's journey from life to death and back again has left an indelible mark on those seeking to understand the mysteries of existence. It offers a glimpse into the divine realm and serves as a call to confront the challenges that lie ahead. Dr. Neal's near-death experience is not merely a tale of personal transformation, but one that intersects with a much larger, more profound spiritual narrative. Before her kayaking accident in Chile, Dr. Neal was a highly trained orthopedic surgeon, grounded in the physical world, relying heavily on logic, science, and evidence. However, after a life-altering incident where she was trapped underwater for over 15 minutes and clinically died, her life was forever changed. The experience that unfolded during those moments on the other side reshaped her understanding of divine intervention, destiny, and the unseen spiritual forces that guide humanity. In her encounter with the divine realm, Dr. Neal witnessed powerful visions that defied the conventional logic she had adhered to in her earthly life. These visions revealed a deep spiritual message tied to a time of great upheaval and transformation on Earth. In her best-selling book, To Heaven and Back, Dr. Neal described a figure that she initially could not fully understand, one who appeared against a chaotic backdrop, out of place and standing as a disruptor. This leader was not someone who fit the mold of a traditional politician or statesman. Instead, he was depicted as an outsider, a disruptor, someone who had not ascended to power through conventional means, but had been chosen by a higher force for a unique and essential purpose. At the time of her vision, Dr. Neal could not immediately understand who this leader was. However, as time went on and the election of Donald Trump as President of the United States unfolded, she began to recognize the figure in her vision as the embodiment of this disruptor. Dr. Neal's vision was not an endorsement of the individual or a political statement, but rather an understanding of the divine plan that seemed to underlie Trump's rise to power. She believed this leader's appearance was part of a larger spiritual narrative, a necessary force meant to break the existing political order, expose hidden corruption, and bring to light uncomfortable truths that had long been buried beneath the surface of society. Dr. Neal's interpretation of the vision conveyed that the period of upheaval she foresaw, though tumultuous, was integral to a divine process of purification and renewal. Much like a wrecking ball, tearing down old structures to make way for new growth. The disruption caused by this leader would create the necessary space for new possibilities. Dr. Neal described the turbulence as a refining fire, a process meant to burn away the impurities of both the political system and the hearts of individuals. She viewed this as a purification process that would eventually reveal the true moral and spiritual fiber of the country. The chaos that Dr. Neal envisioned was not just a political battle, it was a reflection of deeper spiritual struggles. She believed that the United States had entered a time of trial, a test of whether the nation would choose truth, justice, and righteousness, or continue down a path of division, deception, and moral decay. For Dr. Neal, the disruption was a call to awaken spiritually, to examine personal biases, and to realign with higher moral principles. This moment of chaos was, in her view, a necessary and difficult period of introspection and self-confrontation, one that would force people to choose a path of healing and unity, or to continue with destructive division. What stood out most in Dr. Neal's vision was the realization that divine intervention often works through the most unlikely individuals and situations. The leader she saw in her vision was not someone who conformed to conventional expectations or traditional paths to power. His very unpredictability and divisiveness served as a signal of divine selection, a testament to the way God's plans do not always align with human desires or understanding. The message was clear. God's ways are mysterious, and faith and trust in the divine plan are necessary, even when it seems illogical or uncomfortable. The events that Dr. Neal saw unfolding were part of a divine blueprint, one that would ultimately lead to a spiritual awakening, though the process would be difficult and painful. It was a moment of choice for the nation, a decision to rise above differences, embrace higher truths, and work toward unity, love, and healing. For Dr. Neal, the vision was not about a particular political figure, but about the broader spiritual narrative of purification, renewal, and the ultimate triumph of truth. Her interpretation of the vision, particularly regarding Donald Trump's role in it, proved to be controversial. Many saw Dr. Neal's revelations as a spiritual affirmation that God was using Trump as a vessel to bring about necessary change. To these individuals, Dr. Neal's vision validated their belief that the chaos and confusion unfolding in the political sphere were part of a larger divine purpose. However, her perspective also met with significant backlash. Critics pointed out that Dr. Neal's interpretation seemed influenced by her personal beliefs and political leanings. Some argued that near-death experiences are inherently subjective and shaped by the cultural and personal contexts of those who experience them. Others felt uncomfortable with her blending of politics and spirituality, fearing it undermined the purity of her original message. Despite the controversy, Dr. Neal remained steadfast in sharing her vision. She felt a deep sense of responsibility to convey the truth of her experience, no matter the backlash. Her story became a lightning rod for a wider conversation about the intersection of faith, politics, and divine intervention. For Dr. Neal, the message was clear. God's plan was unfolding through unexpected means, and humanity must trust in that higher purpose, even when it defies all logic or expectations. In the end, Dr. Neal's journey was not just about her near-death experience. It was about the lessons she learned through it. Rooted in her Christian faith, her message called on people to look beyond surface-level chaos and recognized the deeper spiritual truths at play. She believed that even in the midst of turmoil, there is always hope, because God's plan is guiding humanity toward greater understanding. Her story was not one of despair, but a reminder that the divine hand is at work in the world, shaping events for a greater good, one that might only become clear in time. What do you think of Dr. Neal's near-death experience? If you have had a similar experience or know of a loved one's story, please share it with us. Thank you for your listening.